Good evening and welcome to the May 10th regular meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors. My name is Dennis Fisher. I'd like to welcome everybody again, and I hope everyone's enjoying the wonderful weather, spring weather we've been having. As is customary, we have a moment of silence at each meeting, so please join the board for having a moment of silence. Thank you. Now please join the board in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Lewis, is there any change in the agenda this evening?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Special actions, no special actions this evening. We do have our first round of public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make comment during this first round? We will have one at the end as well. Seeing none, we'll go on. There's no minor approvals, but there are some reports of committees, or at least one committee and board, the Planning Commission. And we have Peggy Driscoll with us.
Hi, good evening. Planning Commission, we met May 2nd. First item on our agenda was the Applebee's for 2 West Road. The applicant wishes to construct an unenclosed paver patio at the northeast side of the restaurant in the PC Planned Commercial Zoning District. The patio will be landscaped and will be only accessible through glass doors inside the restaurant. There is no net gain of seating, as 30 indoor seats are to be removed to accommodate access to the patio. The Commission voted to recommend that the Board approve this application, subject to compliance with our professional review letters. Next, we had 2 JMZO amendments. First was the Riding Academy. This amendment is proposed to help our joint partners better control traffic and parking during Riding Academy competitions. Newtown Township does not have any riding academies, so we voted to support the amendment for our partners. Next, we had the billboards. This proposed amendment addresses all types of signage, including billboards, both on and off premises. We tabled the discussion to review some research done by previous planning commissions. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 16th, but it's election day, so we will be canceling that meeting. But we had 2 zoning hearing apps that were scheduled for that, so we sent them out via email to all the members and did an informal review of them. The first one was for Sherrod Koshik at 10 Alexander Way. The applicant is seeking a rear yard setback of 36 feet where 40 feet are required. The members agreed to recommend that this application be forwarded to the Zoning Hearing Board without comment. And lastly, we had William Sabluski at 2 Kirks Way. The applicant is seeking relief to disturb agricultural soils by more than 25% for new construction on the Rambo-Kernoken subdivision. The members agreed to recommend that this application be forwarded to the Zoning Hearing Board without comment. There was not a unanimous vote, as one member had concerns that the relief was not in keeping with the goals of the CM management and the spirit of our recently reviewed comprehensive plan. That was all we had. Any questions?
You're going to review the billboards at your next meeting?
Yes.
Good. And the Riding Academy will be on our agenda later this evening, so
Okay.
good. Glad to get your recommendation. Any other questions from the board?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the week. Okay. I think that brings us to board reports. I have a very short one. First of all, I attended the EAC meeting last Monday evening, and I don't want to take anything away from Ms. Snyder. I don't mean to take anything away from you, but I was present for discussions of single-use plastics, next steps, and solar power discussion, which I hope we'll be able to get that presentation to the rest of us at some point. That is the only other thing I had was everybody vote next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is primary election day. That's all I have, Mr. Vice Chairman.
I don't think I have much, except we attended the Joint Zoning Council on the May 4th, and we talked about the wireless communications ordinance. Was still waiting for the Cohen Law Group to get it to us, and we agreed that the billboard ordinance draft was not quite up to par, and it's gone back to the solicitor to rewrite that. And that's about all I have to report on that.
I almost forgot I was at that meeting as well. They did review a draft in detail of the EV charging station ordinance. So I was late for the meeting. I missed your two pieces, but EV charging stations was also discussed. Madam Assistant Secretary, Assistant Treasurer.
I also attended the Joint Zoning Hearing Board. The Newtown Sewer Authority Board met yesterday, and of course the Environmental Advisory Council, where again, yes, we are discussing solar energy. On May 18th, members of the EAC, and I will be sitting in on that, will be speaking with us via Zoom about a possible solar field here at the Township Complex. Of course, that's very, very preliminary. So it's just time to get our facts in order and see what we can do if possible. And that's all I have. Thank you.
While I'm looking down that way, Mr. Calabro, you have anything?
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Brings us to reports of officials. I'm not overlooking public hearing land development because there are none, but reports of officials, and the engineer is listed with no agenda items, but I do recollect that we have a couple of questions. Status reports, if you will.
Sure, yeah, I can give a quick status on a few of the projects.
Thank you.
At our last meeting, I know we discussed the Lower Dolington Road Trail project. The contractor had initially stated that they'd be out there at the beginning of this month. That said, they had a delay on their other project. They plan on being out there next week to get started. We're going to be sending formal correspondence to them to make sure that they keep that schedule, and we're going to do our best to make sure that they get out there and get this project started up again. Regarding the pedestrian traffic signal, the RRFB projects, both at Sycamore and Silo Street, as well as Newtown, Yardley Road, and Terra Boulevard, we're in those preliminary design stages. We anticipate having the preliminary designs done in roughly about a month, hopefully to make that submission to PennDOT. We'll share those plans with the township, obviously, before we do that, but designs are underway for those projects. So happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
I have a question regarding the Business Commons sidewalk project, which I believe includes a little stretch of sidewalk north of, what's that development up on Lower Darlington Road, north of
Near Devon.
Yorkshire Drive.
Yorkshire
Yeah, north
Drive,
of there.
right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Some residents of New Haven were complaining that they don't have access to the trail, but if they were to come out on, I forget, the road to New Haven right across from Yorkshire Drive, I believe, or one block up, will have access to that sidewalk. Is that piece of sidewalk still in part of the plan?
Yeah, that's included with that project. So again, that's also in the preliminary stages. I know Township was working on the grant agreements. There's 2 grants associated with that, so those are executed. We're doing field survey now, so design will be underway, in the next few months.
Is there a crosswalk up there or by Yorkshire Drive or anything like that?
There will be a crosswalk there, and then, we'll evaluate that as part of the future connection with that business common sidewalk project. If there's additional crossings that are needed, during that design, we'll evaluate that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of the people in New Haven that's across the road, and, why do they want to cross the road? They want to get onto the trail, so it'd be great if they could do that.
Yeah, that'll get looked at when we do that design. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the trail.
Yep.
There is nothing we can do to hold their feet to the fire, is there? So in other words, if it rains again, if we have a week of rain, that's going to push them back. They're able to say to us again, well, we were held back because of the rain we couldn't work on the other
Right.
project. So is there any way that we can hold them to it?
What we're going to do is issue them the letter, more or less getting their contract time to start again. And then once we do that, there are other avenues that we can take. Within the contract, there's provisions of them returning to the site and completing things within certain timelines. So once we get that clock started, again, I'm not defending them, they were delayed for a long time and they had to take on other projects. That's what I'm hearing from them. So we will get them on that clock, and then we can, enforce those timelines with them.
I hear you. I don't care about
I
their other
understand.
projects.
I know. Look, I understand.
I want
too.
our project
No,
to go forward.
I understand.
If you
So,
know
yeah.
what I mean.
No, so we're going to get that clock started on that.
I
and
know
then-
you're doing the
yeah.
best you can. Thank you.
Well, it's all about the Benjamins, and I don't know what the timing is on this. If they submit bills, I know they periodically submit payments due. If it comes in the summer, I hope those bills are not paid without the township first taking a look at it, even though we have this new resolution about paying bills when we're not in session.
No, I mean, yeah, all the bills, obviously, all contractor payments, we review them in the field. That said, they also were notified that more than likely there could be meeting changes in terms of approval in the summer, so they are aware of that as well. Yep.
Is there any way we can hold escrow? This might be a solicitor's question.
Well, so there's no escrow, but they just won't get paid for work that they didn't complete.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yep.
Any other questions for our engineer? Seeing none, okay. Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on our report this evening is consideration of authorization to execute a temporary construction easement with the Sewer Authority. This is for work in Marion Drive. They are installing sewer facilities in that road and require an area that exceeds their actual permanent easement in the road. This is just a temporary construction easement to allow them to do that work, after which it's signed off by the township engineer and the easement is terminated. They came to us asking us for this. I revised their proposed temporary construction easement, put it in a form where I think it served the township best, and would ask for authorization to have the appropriate township officers and officials execute the temporary construction easement for this matter.
Would that be, would that be the motion you're looking for?
Yes, please.
Would someone like to make that motion? I would make that motion. Okay, do we have a motion? Do we have a second? I'll second. Thank you. Any discussion from the board? I guess I do have one question. Is this for like one residence, or is this for like a whole sewer renovation project?
I don't know whether it goes down, it must be a length of the road.
It's not within a road, it's within township-owned open space.
Oh, okay, my apologies,
Okay,
my apologies.
all right, thank you, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the public? Guess nobody lives on Marion Drive that's here. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the execution of a temporary construction easement for the Newtown Sewer Authority for Marion Drive, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next item on our report is consideration of the adoption of a resolution approving the First Amendment to the Fire Services Agreement with the Borough. This is a request that arises out of the Fire Commission, on which I believe several of our supervisors serve, to add up to 3 members of the Newtown Fire Association to the commission. Newtown Borough considered this and approved it at a prior meeting. It now comes before this board. The reason we are adopting a resolution here is because it's an intergovernmental agreement, and the act that governs intergovernmental agreements requires that they be approved by resolution. So the motion would be to adopt a resolution approving the First Amendment to the Fire Services Agreement with Newtown Borough.
I'll make that motion. Is there a second for the motion? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions from the board?
Can you just remind me of the composition, current composition of that commission?
Certainly. I believe it's up to 2, here it is, up to 3 members from the borough, 2 township supervisors, the fire chief, the deputy fire chief, and now with the amendment, 3 Newtown Fire Association members.
And this is a non-decision-making body, it's an advisory body.
Recommending body,
Yeah.
yes. This was set up by the agreement that we entered into with the borough for the fee that they're now paying us.
So it will have now 10 members by my addition. If it's an advisory,
Yep.
does it have to have a quorum, or how
No.
does that work?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't.
In fact,
They're going to report to the borough and the township on their meetings and what, any recommendations they make regardless, so.
And are these meetings, well, I don't know if it has anything to do with this resolution, but just curious, is it open to the public?
Yes, they should be.
Yep.
Yep.
And we would find that out by looking at our calendar or the borough's calendar? How would we find out when there's a meeting? It has to be advertised or not?
I would think that in general, the meetings of the commission would be advertised once as a regular date in each month, at a certain place and a certain time. And if there's any changes, they would be announced at the meetings.
So we should be able to find it on the Newtown Township calendar.
We would have to, we went through the year earlier, in March, when we had our last meeting, and we have one coming due in June. I don't believe we've passed those dates on to the township, so I haven't gotten on the calendar, but you make a good point.
Okay, thank you.
We'll do that. We're certainly not trying to keep anybody out. We did have some good discussion. So anyway, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other comments from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving, all those in favor of adopting the resolution approving the First Amendment to the Fire Services Agreement with Newtown Borough and the township, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Final item on our report this evening is authorization to send the Riding Academy Joint Municipal Zoning Ordinance Amendment back to the Joint Zoning Council with a recommendation to authorize it to be advertised. As you heard Ms. Driscoll note in her report, the Planning Commission recommended that this ordinance is ready to go. It does not affect Newtown Township per se, and I would ask for a motion to authorize it to be sent back to the jointure to ask that it be advertised.
Do we have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the Riding Academy JMZO Amendment Ordinance to be sent to the Joint Zoning Council for authorization and advertising, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes our report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Easy for me to say. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
General fund balance this evening is $5,621,709. Plan expirations before the board with no action required. This evening we have Chief Hearn to give the monthly police report. Evening, Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, board members. April 2023 police report, we documented 1,644 calls for service, logged over 22,000 miles in our patrol fleet. For the month of April, we had 9 arrests and clearances, including the burglary at Bed Bath & Beyond, an assault, which was domestic related, employee theft of a business of $100,000, terroristic threats on Hanover Street, 2 narcotics possessions, hit and run crash, a warrant from the sheriff's office, and 1 DUI arrest. There were 22 cases referred to detectives, some of which were the terroristic threats, which involved a barricade situation, a fatal crash on Worthington Mill Road, an arson in Wrightstown, a commercial burglary in Wrightstown, and several frauds in child line investigations. There were 55 traffic crashes, 1 of which were fatal. 152 traffic citations were issued, and 199 warnings issued. We did 2 truck enforcement details involving 23 inspections, 2 citations, 5 warnings, 1 vehicle, 1 driver, and 1 vehicle was towed from the scene. Significant events, like I mentioned, on 4/7, we had a barricaded mental health subject armed with a firearm on Hanover Street, required SWAT activation and a negotiator for several hours. We had road closures put into effect, and as a result, we had a successful outcome. Male was placed into custody and transported for treatment. On 4/28, we had a fatal crash. It was actually in Wrightstown Township, but it was on Worthington Mill Road. 1 occupant was trapped inside the vehicle, extricated by fire personnel, transported to St. Mary's, but unfortunately did not survive. Public service announcements. On our drug take-back on April 22nd, we collected over 122 pounds of unwanted narcotics. In upcoming events, we have 3 in May. May 20th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. we'll be at the Grange Festival on Penns Park Road for Wrightstown Township. We have our Cars, Cops, and Coffee on May 21st from 8 to 11 a.m. at Veterans Park. And on May 22nd, Monday night at 7 p.m. at St. Andrews, 81 Swamp Road, is the annual Bucks County Police Memorial Service, and the entire public is invited. Just a reminder, it's nicer weather, a lot of pedestrians, bicycles out there. Please yield to pedestrians in crosswalks and give the bicycles 4 feet clearance when you're passing them. Thank you.
Any questions for the chief?
I have one. You mentioned, the report mentions 1 auto versus pedestrian. I'm assuming it was a tie, and the pedestrian is okay? What happened? Can you give a little more detail on that?
It was a bicyclist outside the Sparkle Car Wash on Swamp Road. It was an adult operator of the bicycle. He was treated for his injuries and transported to the hospital. Nothing life-threatening, just under investigation.
Okay. And you said the memorial at St. Andrews is...
May 22nd.
It's a Monday?
Monday night, 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Any other questions? Let me ask about U.S. mail. Is it still advisable that people take their letters, their mail into the post office as opposed to using the mailboxes?
I would strongly still encourage you to use internal mailboxes inside the post office. I wouldn't, we had new boxes installed on Penn's Trail Road, which is deterring a lot of our thefts, but now they are taking them from private residences with the flag up for you're leaving them for the mailman, and they're taking them out of the mailboxes. So I still would strongly encourage you to drop it off at the mailbox inside the post office, if at all possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll make one more comment. I'm sorry, Dennis.
Sure. Just one. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You may go.
You mentioned in there about the confrontation with the mental health subject, and that was handled without anybody getting hurt. And also in the report, there were 2 firearms discharged, and it was for deer, right? Not
That's correct.
anything to do with that.
All our firearm discharges were deer-related, not the actual the barricade job.
So I'm glad that was resolved peacefully. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. That concludes our report this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Moves on to bills, minutes, bills list, and other reports. So, Ms. Snyder.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our April 26, 2023 meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board about the minutes of April 26th? Seeing any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of April 26th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I'd like to make a motion to pay our bills in the amount of $291,981.86.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of paying our bills as listed on the May 10th bills list, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 4-1.
Finally, I'd like to make a motion to approve our total of interfund transfers in the amount of $306,235.57.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of paying our bills as found on the May 10th, we paid the bills. This is for transfers, right?
Transfers.
Yes, I caught myself. All those in favor of paying our interfund transfers as listed on the May 10th bills list, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank
All
you.
right, that brings us to our second round of public comment. Do we have any public comments this evening?
John DiApro, Newtown Grant,
Yes.
still the biggest and the best. I was in a meeting Monday where Bucks County Commissioner Diane Maseglu was there, and she mentioned some of the improvements they're making to the county, that they have machines now that will open up the mail-in ballots, even though I disagree with mail-in ballots, but it's legal. And they're improving things for the mental health patients. They have a section off of Doylestown Hospital now. They want to bring the people there. I don't know if it's set up yet or anything, but you contact her for more information on that. But getting back to voting, May 16th, it's only a primary. Unfortunately, Pennsylvania, it's a closed primary. You have to vote what party you're registered to, and not like libertarians and stuff. They can't vote because they're not DRR, and just want people to know that it's still important. You have your school board. I think there's 6 school board candidates up in Council Rock, and 2 of them are Newtown, I believe, and they're the ones that raise your taxes the highest. Phil says that all the time, But, you know, so you want to get somebody on there that's not, you know, saying they're going to do it or, you know, whatever they need. I mean, we had a guy that used to come to the meetings here, he's passed, it was years ago, Alan Harvison. He was an ex-school teacher. And he said, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to stop that. Nothing. He went with the flow with the Northampton crew, whatever they did. Anyhow, you know, if one of the poll workers asks you if you come to vote, one of the poll workers asks you if you're D or R, they're not trying to find out your information. It's just that it is a closed primary and we could send you to the right person. And that's what that's all about. So, like I said, it's important. You should get out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DiApro. I believe there's three races that affect the township. There's 3 different school board races that affect Newtown Township. So, yes, and a lot of the candidates are cross-filed. Good evening.
I'm Terry Christensen. I live at 67 Kirkwood Drive with Twain and the woman of my dreams. We had a lot of conversation lately about pedestrian safety. My sense is, from what I read in the patch and other things, that ultimately there will probably be a Wawa going in. My concern at the time when I was on the Planning Commission, one of the concerns I had, was that this was not, there were not adequate provisions made for pedestrian traffic or bicycle traffic. The Wawa is going to be an attraction for young people. I remember my mindset when I had a bike and I was 11 years old. And we need to be careful about that. I would encourage you as this moves forward to make sure that we are adequately protecting our young people, because most of the people who are going to be attracted to that store live north of the bypass. And I hope I'm wrong about this, but it looks like a tragedy in the making to me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, move right along. Any old business? Yes, on old business we have the AV system proposal, audiovisual system proposal. We have a set of proposals from our video consultant, Video Gold. I hope everybody had a chance to look at them, look them over. I just wanted to get a thought of how to proceed, how the board would like to proceed with this. Would we? I don't know if it's possible to vote this evening. If it's
No, not vote, Mr. Chairman. This is just discussion, and if there's a consensus, we can put it on the next agenda.
Yep. I just wanted to confirm what my thinking was. So if you page through here, we have one proposal that's for the projector and screen, one for meeting room audio and video production equipment, meeting rooms displays, and our audio system, upgrading our audio system. And then the last one is for labor and cables. All adding up in my, if I did my addition correctly, and I did check it with the manager, and he and I were pretty close, $108,800. We in the 2023 budget, under ARPA funds, we had $120,000 allocated for that. So
I get a different number.
okay,
I get over 150,000. You got one here for $70,000, the equipment needs,
Right.
proposal 1A. You got 4,000 something for projector. What was it?
The projector was 8,000.
8,000, right?
The
Sorry.
projector itself was
Since my operation, I've had problems with my eyesight, so I can't see very well. But the proposal 1B totals up to, in my numbers, $71,132. So adding all those up, you have $150,227.
You might have did what I did the first time I did this. If you add up all those numbers, you will get a higher, basically what you said.
You're talking about
But-
proposal 1B, adding them all up?
Yeah, proposal 1B, the final totals are on the second page.
I don't get that.
So you see where it has the $6,879?
Yeah,
That's the total for the cabling.
correct.
And then the $28,087 is the total for the labor.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So that page totals up to roughly $35,000.
I don't know, this is very confusing to me because it says in the first section, video meeting room equipment is like, I don't know, what's that, over 19, nearly 20,000, and I don't see that in the final page where that's added in. I mean, can't the person who did these proposals add this up for us to a bottom line? I don't know.
Or we could ask the administration to do that,
Yeah.
but go ahead, yes.
I'd like to just make a suggestion that we schedule possibly a work session so that we can directly direct some of our questions to the man in the booth that wrote this up. I know I have questions. I think it would be better to get it directly from him because we can sit here and discuss this, but we don't really know what we're talking about until we have a chance to ask the right questions, is my humble opinion.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Is there the question I have for that, is there a timeline for this? I mean, we don't have to do it this month or next month, as long as it's done this year. I mean, our equipment's already antiquated, so.
I don't see any reason.
Not through anybody's fault.
I don't see any reason in pausing. I mean, we have this, I think we should,
I'm just thinking
It's-
scheduling-wise. I'm not
Yeah,
opposed to,
okay.
I'm not
I
opposed to a
got you.
work session.
whatever you think about that, it's fine, the majority.
Mr. Lewis, do we video the work sessions?
No.
So if we don't, that would it would possibly free up our video person to have a discussion with us.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay, yes. Mr. Davis, Mr. Claver, any preferences to?
I think we should, I would like to ask questions, yes. I think it's a good idea.
I agree, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, there are a lot of terminology in here that I don't understand and don't necessarily need to understand, but I would be good to get a couple of questions answered and clarify it in everybody's mind. Then we can move forward. So, Mr. Lewis, that gives you some direction? Okay.
Well, I would also suggest that if people had some questions that could be submitted to the author beforehand, that might help get things moving and answered correctly.
Okay, yeah, not a bad idea. And
I just want to make sure that everything is state of the art. So I don't want to come in from behind. I'd like to come in and make sure that we're right there with state-of-the-art everything. I'm sure it probably is, but those are, some of the questions about individual items that I would like to ask about.
Okay.
That's all.
All righty. Moving on. Another piece of old business is the consideration to authorizing the solicitor to draft a resolution in support of amending the Sterling Act. Mr. Solicitor, do you have any guidance on this?
I think this is a widely embraced step in the right direction to get additional earned income tax revenue into the hands of all municipalities in which folks live who happen to work in Philadelphia. This has been going on since 1932, and I think that all of the municipal organizations and township and borough and first-class township organizations have been pushing for this, and finally it has been passed by the state Senate. It's going to the state House, and this resolution would urge our elected officials to vote for it and put it through.
Mr. Mack, I think you attended the tax organization where they discussed this?
But what you're dealing with here comes from Bocado, is that correct? They sent in
Yes.
a draft, and they sent in an information sheet about this Sterling Act,
There was
I
an
believe?
email that let everybody know that it had passed the state Senate and it had momentum and it was going to the state House. So,
Right.
yes, the sample that you see in your packet is from Northampton Township. That's one that they did at their last meeting in April.
Right, because that better fits it's more like our township in terms of.
Exactly.
And, obviously, the tax collection committee were all in favor of that, and they had numbers, and it's quoted in the referendum. I think we can gain $360,000. Isn't that the number in the referendum?
Yeah, it was north of $300,000, as I recall. Yep.
Yes, the manager in his report said it was $360,000.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to authorize.
Okay, have a motion and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. And this is a vote to authorize the solicitor to draft the resolution for us. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, I would just like clarification on what is the breakdown of the tax?
It would, Phil, I believe, and if this doesn't answer your question, let me know, but I believe that it would allow up to 1%, which is the maximum that townships can tax earned income. It would allow up to 1% of the earned income of a person who lives in the township but works in Philadelphia to be paid to the township. The balance of whatever Philadelphia wage tax that they have would remain with Philadelphia. Okay. But this would redirect that 1% to our township.
But that 1%, we only get half of 1%.
Correct. That's because the school district gets the other half.
So doesn't the resolution have to say half of 1%?
No, because it's going to be, we want the up to the full percentage. We want to have the full percentage sent from the city to the various taxing authorities, not just the township.
I guess we'd have to say that, but in any case, we get $360,000, whether it's 0.5% to us or 1%. It's $360,000.
I would defer to the folks who did that calculation.
Well, that was the calculation that the tax.
Yeah, then the answer is yes. If that's who did it, then yes.
And there was a chart. In the information that I received, there was a chart. I don't have it with me this evening, but I did explain that.
Now, is there special paperwork that a person would have to file in regards to, say, they work for a Philadelphia company, but they have a hybrid position where they work from home, the check comes from Philadelphia company? I believe they would have to file a special IRS form that says they're entitled to that 1%? Or like the township is entitled to the 1%, but all of it is really going to Philadelphia otherwise?
It sounds right, Phil. I don't know what the paperwork is. Obviously, when a person who works for a Philadelphia company or works in the city is asked the information, and their residence is always listed as the township.
Right.
So whatever taxes by law have to be paid to the township as a result of this legislation or other legislation, then that money will be paid to the township. So I guess they just have to report what their residence is. Now, where they work may also play into it, but I don't think that that's a part of the Sterling Act per se.
Yeah, because I was under the assumption the reason for this adjustment in this tax was due to the COVID issue, where a lot of people who worked for Philadelphia firms worked out of their house in their particular township.
Right. I think it's governed by where you, A, where you live, and B, where you physically work.
Okay.
Well, currently, I'm thinking, we had an announcement a while ago that if you're employed by a Philadelphia company, but you're working at home 100% of the time, or maybe it's 3 out of 5 days, you pay Newtown EIT, which is much less than the 3.44% that they would be charged on a wage tax. So I urge everybody who is working at home for a Philadelphia company to make sure that their company qualifies them with the Keystone collection, that they are working at home. So this doesn't affect them, and I don't know if that $360,000 takes into consideration. Keystone also said there were about 721 residents in Newtown that work in Philadelphia. I'm not sure if they know, they weren't able to tell me how many of them work at home versus go into Philadelphia.
Right.
But that's the number of people, and I don't know how much they make altogether. I kind of thinking it was like $26 million. So don't quote me on that, though.
And always check with your tax consultant on these issues.
Yeah, that's the person to go to.
So we have a motion and a second on this. If we're through with our board comments, shall we ask the public for any comment? We shall. Any comment from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of authorizing our solicitor to draft a resolution in support of amending the Sterling Act, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. That's all old business I have. Is there any new business this evening? Going once, going twice? See none. Mr. Solicitor, do you want to announce, or Mr. Manager?
Yeah, I will announce that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'd like to note for the record that the board met in executive session prior to the hearing to discuss a matter of litigation, specifically the litigation associated with the Provco Wawa development.
Thank you. And with that said, and with no objection, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.